In their statement, the Reserve Bank concluded the downturn won't be as severe as earlier expected, and a recovery is now underway in most of Australia. It suggested our GDP is going to decline 6% over 2020, and then our economy is going to pick up, grow 5% in 2021. So our economy is going to be picking up. It already is, but the recovery may just be pushed a little bit further down the track.
The global financial crisis taught us in the US that the property cycle takes 3 to 4 years to work through after a crisis. So you asked me, is this a short-term or long-term thing? There are short-term hiatuses at the moment running all over the place, but the property cycle is probably down for a 5 to 7 year down cycle at the moment.
It's ironic that Melbourne, which has won the mantle of the world's most livable city more times than any other city in the last decade, has now gone into stage 4 lockdown. And whilst this will clearly impact the Victorian property markets, there'll also be implications for the Australian economy and our housing markets. But despite all the bad news over the last 5 months, our property markets have shown considerable resilience.
COVID basically is a catalyst that's created a massive disruption in the economy. Unemployment, which was sitting at 5.2 or 5.3% before COVID hit, is likely to be at 10% by the end of the year, according to the Reserve Bank's latest data. That level of unemployment triggers mortgage defaults like you wouldn't believe. And we're already seeing the early signs of that. And what that means is that we're going to have a further disruption of demand supply in terms of property.
A few commentators were even talking about deflation, but that's really not the case. What happened was petrol prices went down, they've crept up again, and for a short time childcare expenses disappeared. So that was a temporary measure. We're not falling into deflation.
And there is a big, big question here about, is the strategic future deflationary or inflationary? And there are massive differences of opinion out there, right? So there are some people saying all of this money that's being printed, and we discussed that earlier on, is going to basically stoke asset prices. So we're going to see massive inflation, and inflation is going to be a real killer, and therefore we need to protect, and therefore, physical assets like silver and gold are the way to go, right? There are other people who are saying, hang on a moment. You've got to understand where all that liquidity is actually going, right? The liquidity that's being printed by the central banks is not going into the real economy. So it may not actually create the inflationary pressures that people are thinking at the moment. And if that's the case, then the future is more like Japan. And Japan has had a 20-year deflationary cycle. So if you look at property prices in Japan, they're a lot lower than they were. If you look at standards of living in Japan, they've actually not improved. And so you've got this big dilemma, which are the way, because frankly, if it's deflationary, then you don't really want to be in hard assets.
You're talking about the difference between financial education and financial hype. Like you see them in infomercials every single day, and I watch them. I get excited about them. It's the same formula. You got some guy, I won't mention his name, but he's a new guy. There's always a new guy coming up every year. They come up and they go, and it's the same formula. So you have Joe Schmo, the new guy, good-looking guy, his good-looking wife. They go da-da-da-da. And the interviewer, yeah, I had nothing, and I'm now a multi-millionaire flipping real estate. I go, holy moly, and it's the same formula. Everybody wants to get rich quick. And thank God, we've done our best at the Rich Dad Company to avoid that, because there's a difference between flipping and flopping and having some hot chick and some hot young guy up there promising you can get rich quick in real estate. And it does happen, I guess, occasionally, but not for the long term, because eventually your stupidity will catch you, or more your vanity.